Good morning. Very good morning to you. Thank you so much for taking so
Morning.
much effort
Good
to join
morning,
us.
good evening, wherever you are.
And we have Pramod ji from Arihanta Institute. I will
Jai
also
Jinendra.
add you for a while. Yes, Jai Jinendra.
Yeah,
All right.
hope morning, Alan.
Good morning.
Namaskar. Good morning, good evening, wherever everyone is. Thank you for taking the time to join today. And we'll keep this as interactive as possible. And I have Alan, we have a list of questions which we will first go through, and then we'll open it up for others to ask questions. And then you can also talk a little bit about, do you want to give a quick summary on chapter 2 before we dive into the questions?
Okay,
The
sure.
lesson two, yeah.
So the idea is that everyone has now watched the first two
To three, yeah,
lectures.
exactly, yeah. Mhm.
Right. Okay, sure. Yeah, so lecture 2, if you recall, I can even pull it up so I can remind myself. It was
Yeah.
on the history of the Namakar mantra, which we got into a little bit in the first Q&A. And Samaniji, I don't know if she was there.
Oh, actually,
Maybe she
yeah,
has some ideas about how I
lesson
missed.
three, I'm sorry. That's what I meant.
Oh, okay. But basically, yeah, it was about a lot of what we talked about the first lesson, the history of the Namakar mantra, and its earliest outline at the start of the first chapter of the Shatkandagam, this Digambar scripture, and many of the controversies that I discussed the first time about this the pronunciation of the first letter, and if that's proper. There are also debates over this final line of the Anushtubh, Hawaii. Paramam Hawaii Mangalam is how I learned it, at least. But in some manuscript traditions, it's Hoi. They all mean the same thing, meaning hey, bhavati is. But certain traditions accept different words for this final line. So that was basically the overview, this history of the Namakar mantra, some different recensions, an early recension in the Mulachara as well, this early Digambara scripture, and some discussions of some different versions of the Namakar mantra in early, I would say mostly Digambara scriptures, though then I looked at the Mahanasiya Sutta for Sridambaras. I don't know if that was a good overview. Hopefully you watched the lecture.
Yeah, we just did a survey. I think most people did watch before.
Yeah, they are on the fourth lecture. A couple of them are in the
Oh, you're on
fourth.
the fourth. Oh, okay, yeah. So you're way
Not
down the
everyone. So yeah,
Everybody's in the
some
first part.
are still are then
Yeah.
second lecture.
Okay, yeah. So that's okay, so you guys know, if you've been on the fourth lecture, that we're moving. The goal is to really understand the logo of the Arihant Academy with this Om, Hrim, and Arham and what it means. So by the end of the course, you'll just be an expert on the logo of the Arihant Academy.
Exactly.
So if you're on 4, what are you at already? Are you at Om? I'm not sure.
So we'll take the calls and whoever there on the fourth one and respectively. So
I'm reminded of Om.
Yeah.
Om is where we look at the Yoga Shastra, Hemachandra's Yoga Shastra. Okay, yeah. Okay, I have my PowerPoints up, so I'm reminding myself of these.
Okay, so we have a question 1 from Neeraj Jain from New Delhi. She asks, I'm guessing it's a she, yeah. How significant do you believe prayers or mantra acharan are in purifying the soul?
How significant?
Yeah, do you believe prayers or mantra acharan are in purifying the soul?
This is the thing. Okay, so the question is, are they essential? Like, if you need to get moksha, everyone wants to get moksha.
Or how significant?
How
If
significant?
not essential, are they insignificant? Are they significant?
They can be significant. They can be hugely significant. And there's a lot of literature that describes it, how mantras destroy karma. And if you have completed lecture 4, you've read that language in the Yoga Shastra, Hemachandra's Yoga Shastra, that explicitly says that the outcome of these mantras, specifically mantras that are related to the Namakar mantra, mantras that recite the names of the Panchaparameshtan. If you're reflecting on these supreme beings who have destroyed the karma, that's a sort of meditation if you're reciting their names. And that is significant and will destroy karma. I don't think it's required. I think you can get moksha. You can get, if you read the scriptures, how do you get moksha in the Tattvartha Sutra? By destroying karma through, and you read chapters 8, chapters 9 of the Tattvartha Sutra through dhyana and through tapas. And we have these different internal and external types of tapas, and it never says mantras. So I don't think that it's a necessary or crucial component of the path to liberation. It has become, I think, in daily life, absolutely an essential component. I would say a lot of my Jain friends say, like, reciting the Namokar mantra is an essential component of being Jain. Being vegetarian, reciting the Namokar mantra, that's like bare minimum of being Jain. But when you read the Tattvartha Sutra, I don't think it is actually required. Is that a controversial statement? I don't think it is required. I think it can be very beneficial and definitely destroy karma. And you read it again and again and again, but it's not essential. If you read the Tattvartha Sutra, according to the Tattvartha Sutra, if you want to disagree with me, I would welcome that as well.
Yeah, Neeraj ji or anyone else?
See, I think karmas are more important than reciting mantras only. Am I right?
That's
Yeah, the question is, how do you destroy karma?
Right.
Because that's what you have to do. You have to destroy these 8 types of karma. You destroy the 4 types of harming karmas that obscure the nature of our souls, and then you destroy the final 4, and you gain moksha. And the Tattvartha Sutra says you shoot to the top of the universe, to the abode of the liberated, the Siddhashila, where you will remain forever without any karma. So the question is, how do you destroy that karma? How do you get that karma off your soul? So that's the key.
Right. See,
And reciting mantras is important.
my question is that I have seen people who recite the Namokar mantra several times in a day or go to the temple, but in their daily lives, they do not follow the 5 vows. They just violate them. So I think one stands a greater chance of attaining moksha by following the vows than reciting the mantras alone.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. Yeah. Again, if you read the Tattvartha Sutra, which has become the place to go for these questions, and you read chapter 9 on Nirjara, getting rid of karma. Yeah, they'll outline the 5 vows, but they won't. There's no discussion of mantras actually in the Tattvartha Sutra.
Mhm.
So yeah.
I want to add here. Reciting mantra it helps a lot in shedding of karmas, has directly connection with the shedding of karmas. At that period of time, when you are reciting, you are aiming towards the super souls. And at that time, your activities and everything means you have stopped that activities and all that. So directly at that period of time, while reciting mantras, you are shedding off your karmas. So that way it is connected.
I've
May
also
I'm
seen,
true or not?
I don't know who just spoke, but I have also read in somewhere that Jainism is more about action than bhakti. So recitation of mantras alone should not be that important.
Yeah, I think I agree with that as well. I think scriptures agree that you cannot attain liberation Well, first off, none of us can attain liberation right now because of the time period in this location of the universe. We'll have to go somewhere else to attain liberation. Even if the time period were to be sufficient and we could liberation now, we would have to take the 5 vows. It is impossible as a layperson, according to early Jain scriptures, as a Shravak, to attain liberation. So you can't attain liberation just through mantras. Helpful along the path, but I would say not essential, not essential. So I
Yeah,
think you can be a Jain and gain liberation without ever learning the Namakar mantra. I think that's kind of crazy to say, but I think that is true.
right. I would say that the recitation of mantras would help to the extent that it helps control your thoughts.
Yeah, definitely. And I think lecture 7 or something, I talk about how in medieval scriptures they identify recitation of mantras as a type of dhyana. So yeah, that's actually chapter 4, I think I discussed this. Or chapter 4, sorry. Lecture 4, if you've gotten to that.
Yeah,
In
but
medieval, yeah.
I had asked this question to Smita as well, that see, when I recite the Namokar mantra, it is written in Prakrit. It's not in modern day. It's not in any of the modern day languages like Hindi or English. So I do not relate to it as much. It does not help me control my thoughts as much as I would do. Listening to a Bollywood song. I don't get any bad thoughts which would violate any of the vows while watching a Bollywood song rather than reciting Namokar mantra. This might sound revolutionary, but what do you think about that?
No, I think that's absolutely right. Because when these medieval Jain thinkers try to argue that the Namokar mantra destroys karma, they say it's because it directs your thoughts towards the people you're praising in the Namokar mantra. So you're
Mhm.
thinking of the Arhat, Namo Arihantanam. You're thinking of the qualities of the Arhat, Namo Siddhanam. But what you're saying is that's not true. Because you're not actually, I don't know. You're not actually thinking, oh, Arhat, this is the Arhat. These are the qualities of the Arhat. These are the qualities of the Siddha. I want to become a Siddha. Oh, Uvajayanam. Oh, these are the Upadhyayas. I'm not sure if people are thinking. These days, there aren't many Upadhyayas in India at all, actually. But there are a few. But most people skip. There's more like Banyas, and then they skip to Acharya. So sometimes, maybe when you're reciting Upadhyay, you're not even really thinking, like, what's an Upadhyay? Because there aren't Upadhyayas
And
anymore.
and not
in
just that, I would like to reiterate this, that the Namokar mantra is written in Prakrit, which I don't know.
Right.
So
So you don't, can I ask a question? So you don't actually know the meaning of these?
no, I do know the
Yeah.
meanings,
Right.
but
Right.
I read a few years ago. I read that when you like a song, what do you like the most about it? Is it the lyrics or the music? And most of the people said that a song is likable more for its lyrics than for its music. So if you
Mm,
do not understand the lyrics, then how would you appreciate it? So
right.
I think Jainism should move with the times, and the Namokar mantra should be translated into modern day languages, or should be made more.
Yeah, it's a good segue. It's a good segue into what Felipe Ribeiro asks. Is it allowed for us to translate the mantras to our local national languages to make it more accessible?
Oh my gosh. I think that's a
And
great
he's a
question.
Portuguese.
Because, okay, so that's the thing. There's a lot of literature, and I think lecture 10, I talk about this on the importance of pronunciation, proper pronunciation. Because this was in lecture 1, I think, on the Varganas or the clusters of matter in Jain philosophy. So sound and karma are both clusters of matter. So Jain philosophers will say you need to recite a very particular sound to destroy a very particular type of karmic matter. And there are a lot of stories about this, At the outset of the Dhavala, actually, at the composition of the Shatkandagam, there's a story of a monk who remembered the remnants of, I think, did I tell this story in the lecture? I'll just tell it really quickly. There's a story of a monk who remembered the remnants of Mahavir's teachings, and he tasked 2 monks to record these teachings in the Shatkandagama, and he gave them a test, and he gave them a vidya spell that was 1 akshara too long and 1 akshara too short. And he said, meditate on this. Sorry, I have my dogs. Meditate on this. And the monk who meditated on the mantra or the vidya with that was too short manifested a goddess without an eye. And the one that meditated on the mantra that was too long manifested a goddess, I think, with an extra eye. Anyway, so this shows the power of a single syllable. But at the same time, Jain texts emphasize, I think, in opposition to Vedic texts that say, no, you must, it's important, the language is important, Sanskrit is important. They say, actually, no, the meaning is more important, Jains say. So I think
Right.
you can go either way. This is also, I would say, with Pratikraman. I don't know if you do Pratikraman, but Digambaras these days, when I've done Pratikraman with Digambaras, it's been translated into Hindi. And if I'm just frank, that is much easier for me to understand when I'm doing Pratikraman. And I've had people say, yeah, this makes a lot more sense. If I'm doing this act of repentance and reflecting on my actions, I'd like to do it in a language I understand rather than just sort of go through this Prakrit that I don't understand. So I think there's, I don't know what to say, but I think there are arguments for both sides. And monks I've talked to have said, no, say it in Prakrit. That's it. Don't say praise. If I were to sit down and say praise to the Arhats, praise to the Siddhas, that is totally effective because I'm meditating on those qualities, but it's not effective in the same way. I don't know if that answered the question.
Yes,
It's a
yes.
great question, though. It's a great question that definitely comes up and yeah, relates to the first person.
Namrata ji wanted to add something, and then yeah.
Hi, Jai Jinendra. I'm Namrata. So yeah, there's some of the discussion going on, like, you keep chanting the mantra without actually, people chant the mantra and then they go do things which are against Jainism, they don't follow the vows and all that. But that's the beauty of Navkar mantra. See, the same questions I face every day from my kids and all. They say, ki, we don't see, why should I go to temple? Why should I chant the mantras? I don't see any. So what we have been taught from our parents, grandparents. So you keep chanting the mantras, and one day, it may not be one day, it may not happen also. But at least you don't chanting the mantra and you have faith in them. And somehow, somewhere, things are happening because we believe in karma, right? So that's my thought on on the discussion which you guys were just having right now.
I think
And
that's
another thing is about the translating of the mantras. See, if it is just Namokar mantra, the beauty of the mantra lies in its originality. Anything original, nothing can beat it, right? So even if it's a Mona Lisa painting, even if I make a perfect replica of it, people will not give that, the credit. So what is original is original. And yeah, that's about it. My best.
okay. I think that's a really
Yes.
good point. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yes, Priyaji, you can also take your question. Yes.
Thank you. Just to add to that, I'm from Kenya. Our youngsters are losing the language. And so the Pratikramar is also, there's the option of doing it in English, especially during Paryushan time. The community halls do allow that. And so I believe in the future, when there's a lot more intermarriages and things get really mixed up, we are going to lose the language. And so what then? So that's I mean, just adding on to that. So my Gujarati is not great, and so English is my language. And so I've joined these lectures because it's in English. Whereas my mother insists that I should learn Gujarati. She's from the Srimad Chandra Satsang group, and they do everything in Gujarati. I barely understand anything of the religion. Anyway,
Yeah. I'll just say I'm in America. I have a lot of Jain students in a similar situation. I think young Jains of America have done a lot of good work. Jains in North America have done a lot of good work translating these things, and maybe it'll move that way. But I think the Namakar mantra will remain. I don't think we're gonna get people saying this in English, and longer things like Pratikraman, it really makes sense, I think, to try. I'm
Yeah.
not sure. Who am I to say? I don't know, but yeah, I think this is a good point.
Thank you. Thank you, Priyaji. Yes, Namrata.
I have
Ranjita ji?
to
Yeah.
say that in this one thing can also be thought like sound vibrations have a part.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Namakar mantra any mantra in its original form, the sound vibrations have very big impact. That's what I wanted to add. Thank
Yeah,
you.
exactly. So that's what I was saying. Yeah, the importance of a single syllable is very important. But there are differences in the mantra and how they're recited amongst Jains. Havai, hoi, or na. So if we believe in sound vibrations in that way, then actually there are very different effects depending on how you pronounce it, which version of the mantra you pronounce.
Namrata ji, do you have to say anything more to add?
Regarding Priyaji's question, I would like to add, I'm audible, right? Yeah, regarding Priyaji's query, okay, being in Kenya, I'm sitting in Bangalore and I'm facing the same situation with my kids. The only thing is I'm hell-bent on teaching them Hindi so that we don't lose on our culture, on the richness of the tradition which we have. That's the only way out. We have to teach them our culture, the language, of course, because it has so much essence. It's because otherwise things are very easy to fade. We have to hold on and we have to pass it on. That's the only solution is what I feel. But on the other side, I have also seen that Jainism today is evolved so much, in case of like Pratikaman, people sitting all over, there are online Pratikamans and everything. You have to just follow the steps and you're done. And of course, how we believe is probably lakhs of people are doing it together. Maybe they're doing it mindlessly without understanding. It's okay. Just do it. Probably 10 out of the lakh people would get interested and maybe take a few steps forward, which is good. So yeah, thank you.
True. Thank you. Thanks.
I would like to just add one quick question to this, Alan, and then we'll go. There were a couple more, and we have 3 other questions we want to get to. If you look at how religion has evolved, specifically the Jews, right? You have the people who are very traditional still with the scriptures, and most of them have turned into modern day Jews and interpret whatever it means to be Jews. And we are in the same kind of situation now with Jains not accepting to say, this, I'm a modern day Jain now, or no, this is what a Jain is, right? And maybe it's a time to accept that I'm a modern day Jain versus this is this philosophical debate to say, yes, this is the only one rooted in religion is the only way to be a Jain.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Who am I to say? But I think when you go through the whole course, you will see that. So the course charts 2,000 years of developments. You'll see that there are very large developments in Jainism, that it adapts with the time. I think Parvinji said something like the teachings of Jainism are eternal, but they manifest in different ways over time, or something like this. I think there's a lot of truth in that. So yeah, where are we now in this current moment with regards to language, etc. For example, Sanskrit, the Tattvartha Sutra, that's a big change. They were probably having these same debates that we're having about English,
Right.
Pratikaman. Like, no, we need to keep our scriptures in
Great
the
point.
language of Mahavira. Why would we ever use Sanskrit? And then other people are saying, no, we want to be in dialogue with other people, so we need to compose. Uma Swami's probably saying, I don't know, I'd love to go back in time and see these debates. No, we need to compose in Sanskrit. No, we need to compose in Gujarati. I mean, we have all these vernacular texts. So through time, you see these changes. And now we're in this moment where we have new vernaculars coming up. English is one of them. And I think that is just a natural development that we've seen throughout 2000 years.
Yeah,
We'll
I
go to
think you're.
Sriniji,
y-
then
yes,
we'll go to
sorry.
Sriniji, then Milan, and then Namrataji, and then we'll come to you, Neeraj. Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to add, I teach Jainism to children in Nairobi. I know Priya, she's a friend. But what we've learned, in our school, we teach in English. Although we teach the sutras in English, and when you teach kids in a language that they can understand, you're able to pull in a better crowd. And they actually do come for the pratikaman, and they actually come for puja, and they will visit a temple because they know exactly what they're doing. When we stick to our Gujarati or Hindi or whatever vernacular language it is, it's very difficult for the kids of nowadays to understand because we are in a very multicultural society. So I feel certain things it's easier, we can translate it for them, and that way we can at least maintain our religion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah, thanks. Milanji, please take your question. Yeah.
Guys, the doctors have given up all hopes, but there were, since 8 years, blood and pus were oozing out of 2 spots. They said it is septicemia. There is no way to escape or rescue. Nothing can rescue you. But I had heard my grandma saying that Naukar mantra has all the miracles and it can save you miraculously. And it happened in my life also. For 8 years, blood and pus were oozing out. But then I started writing Naukar mantra so as to concentrate more on it. And then about 1 year after that, that is 11th year, instead of 2 abnormal growth, it became 1. And then again, after 1 more year of writing Namakar mantra, suddenly while the doctor was dressing, the 2 became 1 and then it vanished all of a sudden. And that is a miracle in my life. I am not a pandit or a scholar, but it was a faith that can move mountains. It came true for me.
Yeah. Good.
Amazing,
Great
amazing.
story,
Thank you.
Milanji. Great
Thank
story.
you so much for sharing your story. Thank you
We'll
so
move to the next question now. We're up at on the hour here. So this is from Meenakshi Ji Mehta, and the first one was related. She has 2 questions. I'll go into the second question. Can you provide further details on the meanings of Namo Arhantanam and Namo Arihantanam?
Right.
Additionally, would you explain the significance of Namo Sarva Siddhanam and Namo Loe Sarva Sahunam?
Okay, yeah. So I think that was in the first
Yeah.
lecture. So they both mean Arhat, the omniscient soul, the one who has attained Keval Gyan, is an Arhat, an embodied omniscient soul. So all the Tirthankaras are Arhats. So all the Jinnas are Arhats, but not all Arhats are Jinnas. So they both mean that, but they're just different Prakrits or ancient vernaculars with Ari or Ara. Then later they've been interpreted in different ways. You've probably heard this interpretation of Hanta as killing Ari, the enemy, in Sanskrit, meaning the enemy of karma. So the Arhat is the one who kills the enemy of karma. These sort of etymologies are very popular in Sanskrit literature. Whereas Arha is sort of the noble one in Sanskrit. But they both mean Arhat. So this gets back to the question of they both mean the same thing. You're reflecting on the same omniscient being, but does it matter if you pronounce it differently? And then it comes back to the question, does it matter that I'm pronouncing it pretty badly because I'm an American when I recite these mantras? And I don't know. I've asked monks and there are always different answers to this. What was the next one? Namo loe sava sahunam? Or sarva?
Namo Sarva Siddhanam and Namo Loe Sarva Sahunam.
Okay, so the Namo Sava
It's-
Siddhanam. Namo Sava Siddhanam. So that's in that early inscription in Orissa. So Namo Sava Siddhanam. So Namo Sava is sarva, all, and then Siddha is the liberated souls, Siddhanam in plural. So Namo, praise, bow to, obeisance to, Sava, sarva, all, Siddhas, liberated souls. So liberated souls are the ones who have achieved moksha. They've destroyed all 8 types of karma, and they're residing infinite knowledge, infinite bliss, infinite power, and the abode of the liberated soul, the Siddhashila. So Namo Sava Siddhanam, which doesn't make it to the Nokar mantra that we know and love today, but is in that early inscription. And then the last one is that I have to translate. Namo Isopanch. What was the last one? Last question?
That's it. Namo Loe Sarva Sahunam.
Oh, Namo Loe Sava Sahunam. Okay, Namo Loe, if you've heard of Loka is the world. In Prakrit, they drop the ka, these medial consonants. So Loe is Loke, in the world, if you know Sanskrit. Loke. So Namo Loke, in the world. Sava is against Sarva, all. Sahunam is sadhu. They drop all aspirates in Prakrit. So da turns to ha. All aspirates like da, ta, all of that. All turn to ha. So sahunam, sadhus. So it's praise to all the sadhus in this world, like the ones we know and love here in this world. Namo loke, in this world, loe, sava sarva sahunam, sadhu. Hopefully that was helpful.
Yeah, sure. Meenakshi ji, are you there? If you want to.
Yes. So coming to that, as you said, it is Sabva Siddhanam is also being used. So why not it is used in Sabva Arihantanam, Sabva Ayaryanam, Sabva Uvachayanam? Why only in Sabva Sadhunam?
Great
Sarva.
question. Okay, yeah. Namo Arihantanam. Yeah, they're not saying yes of us. I've never thought of that. Namo Arihantanam, Namo Siddhanam, Namo Vajanam.
In the text that you had sent in the week 2, it had mentioned Kesar Savve Siddhanam, which comes in one of the texts. I don't remember the name of the text. So, and also one more thing, that in the Song of the Soul, in that text, it had mentioned Ke Namo Arihantanam, Namo Siddhanam, and all those are actually the spiritual stages of the soul.
Yeah.
So we are paying obeisance to our own level of spirituality, that we are in that state and we aim to achieve that state, right?
Yeah. It's, and on the lecture on Om, actually it's charted that when you put the Panchaparameshtan on the Om, the syllable of the Om, it's sort of a path to liberation. You start as a Sahu, your normal Sadhu, and then you work up to an Upadhyay, then you work up to an Acharya, and then you eventually want to become a Siddha. The question is, why do we do Arhats first? Because they're in the world, they gave us the teachings, I think. I think that's or we debate that in
that's the right
so
way.
it's charting your path to liberation. If you work from the last sadhu. Why is it not sarva? Okay, I think it's because of the meter, actually, this anushtabh meter.
Right.
Sava pava panasano. So they need the sava pava panasano in when they add this, because in the Shatkandagam it's the 5. You,
Correct.
even when you recite it, it's a very different meter. Once you start the Eso Pancha Namo Karo Sava Pap, that's in a meter, whereas Namo Arihantanam Namo Siddhanam, that's just listed. There's no
Hmm.
meter.
Hmm.
Because it's just a praise at the outset of the Shatandagam. But then when you find it in the Mahanasiya Sutta, it's Anushtab. So I think that's the answer to your question. That's why they had to add the Sava. Eso
Right.
Pancha Namo Karo Sava Pava Parnasano. Yeah.
And sorry, one more question. The last 4 lines which were added to the 5 lines, any traces of why it was added, just to make it look as the only Mangal which is possible?
Yeah, why was that added? Because that description, so in lecture 1, I discuss how in the Mulachara, they discuss that. They basically have Eso Panchanamakara,
Yeah.
but it's not part of the mantra, it's just describing the mantra. And that's what it is. It says this 5-fold formula destroys all bad karma, papa, and is the supreme mangala of all the mangalas. So why did they add that? I don't know. You're asking great questions.
And yeah, coming to that, your second week recording, where the last question was why logos is used instead of now, or in place of logos, why naukar is used. So logos is basically the stavana of 24 tirthankaras, and if
Yeah.
you don't know that, then in that place you use a naukar mantra, which
Yeah.
is as good as giving obeisance to all the spiritual beings. Okay.
That makes sense.
So
Thanks. Yeah. Because the arhat's in Namokar mantra.
yes,
Often
yes,
you'll read that if in place of this, do the Namokar. Because logos is so long as well.
correct. And at the particular sloks are only recited. That is also to do with the breath, in how many breaths that you finish.
Oh, that's helpful. Yeah. Okay, that makes
And
sense.
in the same number of breaths are there for the Naukar mantra. That's the reason we speak only till that much shloka only.
Okay, great. That's very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much, Meenakshi ji. Meera ji, please take in your
Raji,
question.
Yeah, to answer that Savva for the sadhu, the Navamo Loye Savva Savuna, because sadhu had, in ancient time, they had a capacity to go to everywhere. They can go to, heaven. I mean, there are 3 parts in Jagat, Loka, Udvalok, the Tirchalok where we are, and then Adolok where the Narak, the down. So sadhu has a capacity to go anywhere, the special mantra they had at that time. But Arihant is mostly on the Tirchalok, Manusyaloka and Udvaloka, upper level. They can never go to down. So that's why we are praying sadhu wherever they are, in the past, present, in future. In Naukar mantra, we praying to Arhant, we praying to Siddha. Siddha is only in Udvalok, on the higher level. So that's why they don't need to be server there. They are only in 2 levels or 1 level, something like that. That's what I understood.
Okay.
So
This is
that's
a
why they don't need a server.
Okay, maybe.
Okay.
This is a sort of side note, but we have a Loka Purusha, image of a cosmic man at the museum at Emory University. And there are images of jinnas in hell, and Urdhva Loka, in hell and heaven. And I've been doing research, and actually there are a lot of Jain scriptures that describe how jinnas can go into hell, and there can be arhats in hell and heaven. This is just a side note. It's a research, because this question, can there be arhats in hell? And there have been discussions of that. Anyway, that's a side note.
Great. Thank you so much, Meera ji. Pushpa ji, please unmute yourself. You have question, right? You have raised your hand. Pushpa ji? Okay.
Oh, now
Hello?
she is.
Yeah, we can hear you. Please.
Yes. Monks, matlab sadhus are not in all the 3 stage. Matlab Urdhvalok, Adolok, Tirchalok. Sadhus are only in India and not anywhere else.
They are only in Madhya, yeah, Madhyalok.
Yeah,
Well, yeah,
Madhyalok, but
but
not in, yes,
that's true. That's true, I
Adnip Dweep.
think. But they're in other dweeps, right? Like, because there are
Yes,
other
their
Vidya.
souls may be in everywhere, but physically they are in Tirchalok.
Right. Yeah. They aren't in, they aren't in heaven or
Okay.
Yes.
hell.
All right. Good. Thanks for adding that. And Pramoji, do we have more questions?
Yeah,
In the audience also, do you have any questions, more questions? Otherwise, we'll wind up the session.
yeah, other questions, or at least if anybody has other questions, otherwise, want to do a few bookkeeping things and then we'll wind up. Yeah, Namrataji, go ahead.
So I was asking about the timeline, the Hinduism, Jainism, and the world history, the current, according to the English calendar. So which is the oldest? Jainism has come first, or is it Hinduism? And so the timeline was, am I making sense?
Yeah, no, it's a very difficult question.
Yeah.
I think if you read Intro to World Religion books, they will say that the Vedas were composed around 1200 BCE. And then we have these Vedic people move into the Gangetic plains, and later Vedas are composed, Upanishads, that proclaim ideas about reincarnation, karma, renunciation. That's when we don't get those ideas in the early Vedas, the Samhitas, the hymns. And it's at that time, these textbooks say that these so-called Shramanas, these renunciatory traditions develop. So the Buddha, Mahavira, and this time is around the 6th century BCE. So they say that Jainism developed in reaction. Jainism, Buddhism, these other traditions, renunciatory traditions, where you say you need to leave the world, the Shramanas, developed later in reaction to these Brahmanic traditions. Other people say, no, these renunciatory traditions already existed. And actually, there's a book in English called Early Magadha, because this period, this region, Magadha in North India, this is where Mahavira was born, and the Buddha as well. So Johannes Brown, of course, argues that actually those ideas of reincarnation, karma, already existed there. And when these so-called Vedic people came down into the plains, then they encountered these ideas that were already there in India. So long story short, no one knows, but if you read textbooks, Jainism developed later than so-called Hinduism, which of course Hinduism, as we know and love it today, wasn't found in the Vedas. It's developed so much since then. But if we say that the Vedas are Hinduism, the Vedas were composed probably before the earliest Jain scriptures were composed. Historically, I hope that makes sense. Then of course Jains will say, well, but Jainism is eternal, so. But like historically in India, probably the Vedas were composed first, and Mahavira was born and to teach a reaction to the Vedas, against the Vedas. Why is nonviolence so important to Jains? Because there were these sacrifices, animal sacrifices happening according to the Vedas. Why is celibacy so important to early Jains? Because the Brahmins continued their line by having a son. It's very important to remain married, have a son, pass on the Vedas orally. So Jainism and these renunciatory traditions are reacting to that and developing their teachings in reaction to that. That's what world history textbooks say, at least.
This is what I understood from the first Tirthankar, Rishabdev Bhagwan, dates back to a really long time back. So that is, you have to just imagine. But yeah, Jainism as such has come into a proper formation after Mahavir. That was to give it a proper.
We don't have any evidence. We don't have any historical evidence for Rishabha. So that's the thing. Like,
that's the thing. Yeah.
Jains will say, of course, Jainism came first. That's what our scriptures say. But in terms of historical evidence that we have,
So it's a the Vedas. So we don't have any historical evidence of Jainism before the Vedas.
No,
Hello.
I wouldn't
Yeah.
say. People say
Hello.
these Indus Valley seals. People say, hello. People say, you know, the Indus Valley seals
Okay.
of the bull is Rishabha. I don't know. I mean,
I'm
Rishabha
sorry, I
doesn't.
lost you in between.
Oh, hello.
No.
Say there's no evidence before the Vedas of Rishabha. I think some Jains argue that the Indus Valley seals, you know, these seals,
Yeah. Yes.
Right.
that depict the bull. Bulls,
Yeah.
Rishabha, signifies Rishabha. I think that's a tenuous claim. I think it depicts a bull. I don't think it depicts Rishabha. So that would be the evidence. But I mean, yeah, it's very difficult because maybe it existed and we just don't have evidence. But right now, there's no historical evidence for the existence of.
Right. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, Namrata ma'am.
I have one last question from Priyadarshana Shah. She asked, is there a website where lay persons can follow visualizations of Jain meditation, Dhyan, or Om, Rem, and Arham?
Oh, I'm sure. YouTube.com, I'm sure, if you put it in. That's a good question. I'm sure some things like that's on YouTube.
Yeah.
Visualization of Om. Yeah. Jain
She also has
Om.
another-
I hope it's on YouTube. You guys should make it if it's not on YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll do some research and get back to you.
Yes. There are other
And then-
questions in that, Pramodji. Do you?
Yeah. Are there colorful paper prints available online for Jain mandalas, yantras suitable for home decorations? If so, would you provide the links? I'm guessing a similar answer.
Yeah.
Google Images has some really beautiful ones. Yeah.
And also,
and also
now people requesting your email ID, so that I'll take it from Pramodji.
Yeah.
To
I can
connect
put
with
it in
you.
the chat. Should I put it in the chat?
Yeah, let's put it on the chat. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll paste it on the group as well. Yeah, Neeraj ji, we'll take the last question from you, and that's it. Go ahead.
Okay,
Shoot.
I just want to confirm what Ellen was saying, and I think she's right about that, that the question that I'm asking today about translating Namokar mantra from Prakrit to modern day languages, to common man's languages, this debate was going 2000 years ago also, and Prakrit was actually the language of the masses, whereas Sanskrit was the language of the elite, and Jainism wanted to appeal to the masses, and that's why, you know, they had their scriptures all translated into Prakrit. So yeah, you're very right, Ellen, that this debate may have been going on like 2000 years ago also, or rather even more after Mahavir's death. And we may need to rethink, or you know, we may need to look to think along the same lines as the people were doing at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. With each era, you can see the development of language. I mean,
Right.
Gujarati, of course, Mahavir wasn't speaking Gujarati. So why is Gujarati so important these days? I mean, I know obviously for cultural reasons, it's very, very important, and I've studied Gujarati, but you know, the tradition evolves as languages develop.
Sure. Yes, I think Pramodji, I
Yeah.
think we're done.
So thank you very much. I think this was very enlightening for me and very engaging, and just to hear different points of views, and I feel enriched. So we're gonna have another session in probably we will coordinate to see if it's gonna be next Friday or the week after, based on progress students have made. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Ms. Ellen, and thank you so much, Pramodji, and all the audiences for joining, and stay tuned. And please keep posting your questions. I will keep collecting. You don't have to wait till my message comes and shoot your questions. And it was very nice to have you all. And let's just make it all the more interactive in the next session. Thank you so much for joining. Jai Jinendra.